It was Texas, it was Tennessee. It was what I had coming to me.
What's up, everybody? Welcome in to the Texas to Tennessee podcast. I am Soul Gravy, and we are Steveless tonight. So all hell, the cats may wander off tonight. But we'll do our best to keep it on track. But tonight, we are our guest is Wynn Williams. Thanks for hopping on, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, brother.
Been going through the catalog since you came up on the list for this week, and man, a lot of good stuff out there for sure.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Appreciate you listening too.
Yeah, I made sure I hit the follow button when you come up on the spreadsheet a couple months
Yeah,
ago. So
man.
yeah,
You wouldn't believe how many, interviews I go into. They're like, so tell us about your stuff. And I'm like, oh man, well, I've been doing it for a while. And, it's obvious like they haven't listened to anything or like, I walked into one radio interview one time. They didn't even know my name, which was wild. So anyway, I appreciate you.
I did one of those, but it was uh, a lady was opening up for someone, and I didn't know who the opener was. And so I did the interview that I had set up, and then met her on the spot. Like I didn't know her, but
Yeah.
I was like, "Hey, would you like to be on the podcast?" She's like, "Sure." And then I interviewed her, and I didn't know her name, I didn't know her music. I mean,
Oh man.
I knew that she was an independent artist, which is all the
Yeah.
only that's the main thing we're trying to push. So
Right.
she fit the qualifications, and then turns out, I mean, she had tons and tons of followers and stuff, and it's just so hard to keep up with everything and all the music that's
I
out
get
there.
it.
So,
I get it.
uh, but ended up being a really cool interview, and glad now I know her, and we'll see her next month at North Springs Music Fest. So,
Awesome.
um, so for the folks that don't know you, who the hell is Wynn Williams?
Yeah, man. I'm a Texas artist. I grew up in Weatherford, Texas. Went to Weatherford College for a couple years. I was a rodeo guy there. Transferred to Texas A&M, rodeoed there for a short time, and then really started to, you know, lean into music a lot more, writing songs, recording songs, playing shows. And then I graduated from A&M in 2016 and started playing music full time. And that's all I've done now for a living for 9 years now, and it's been a lot of fun. It's certainly had its ebbs and flows. To some degree, I like to tell people, some days are better than others, but I imagine that's probably with everything. But yeah, man, I've been doing this for a long time, and we just put out a new record. We've
Yeah.
obviously a catalog of stuff that you can go check out anywhere you listen to music. But it's kind of a nutshell of where I come from and how I got started anyway.
Well, I know it's a generic question, but was music around the house, or did you find that on your own as far as learning to
Yeah,
play music?
for sure, man. Music was always a part of my life, and I come from a musical family. My granddad had a band, and he was an artist, and he played around
I
the
got you.
DFW area. Um, everybody in my family sings. My dad plays guitar as well. So whenever I was learning how to play guitar in high school, it was a mixture of my dad and YouTube that taught me how to do it. I don't know how to read music or anything. I just
Right.
self-taught situation, a lot like a bunch of other artists and musicians out there. So yeah, it was always around from a very young age. And then whenever I was in high school, I was in choir for 4 years, which I really enjoyed. And then um, my where I really got kind of the itch to perform was actually doing the talent show in high school, and just like really enjoyed playing on or being on stage. At that point, I really couldn't play guitar well, so
Right.
I just like sang to a karaoke track, and it was well received. And I just really enjoyed, being on stage and performing for people.
So it was the performance side first before the songwriting.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I very shortly after that I tried songwriting, and it was so bad. So I feel like I just needed a few years to live a little bit, and have some life experience, and then I started to write in college.
Yeah, I mean, there are young cats out there that can write these heartbreaking, deep songs, and at such a young age, and it makes you wonder how the hell does that, how do you get to that
Yeah.
place, Um,
Right.
but so by popular demand, I was going to ask anyway, chat, but Steve has a question that he asked every podcast called the pie question. All right, and it's a musical pie. You can divide up into four sections: performance, recording, songwriting, and then everything else: the business, social media, everything that everybody doesn't like to do.
Right.
Um, which one of those things is home to you? Which one of those slices do you gravitate towards?
Um, I probably honestly gravitate towards the business side of things.
Mm,
Um, Obviously I enjoy the songwriting and the recording stuff, and obviously playing shows, but I spend the majority of my, if you were to take that pie and let's say they're
mm.
all supposed to be 25%, I spend about 90% on the business side, and probably like, uh, so much. Yeah, it's crazy like how much as an independent artist. I mean, you've had
Mm,
a bunch on your podcast. You are your own small business, and so you kind of have to wear a bunch of different hats, especially early on in your career. I've done everything in my business, and to this day I still do a lot,
mm.
especially on the day to day. But I would probably say the business side of things, because I'm just kind of interested in business, like in general. I'm just,
Is
for
that
some reason, I just like have that in my head, kind of like at all times. So sometimes it actually is challenging for me to like step out of the business,
mhm,
piece of the pie, and
right?
actually creative side, which is why I come up to Nashville. I write and record up in Nashville and all that kind of stuff, and
Hmm.
management's up there, booking's up there. I mean, it's Music City, so I'm there. But I actually, I've said many times, like, Texas is my business place, and Tennessee is my creative space. So I really have to like make a point to compartmentalize those things, because if I don't, I'll just get sucked into business 100% of the time.
So the business is the bigger slice of the pie. Is that what is the most natural to you?
I would probably say the performing side is the most natural for me.
Gotcha.
Um, the songwriting, I'm, at all times I'm still developing as a songwriter, and it has become more challenging for me to do the songwriting stuff, just because I've been so busy on the road, or maybe on the home front too, just trying
Mm,
to catch up from being out on the road. um, but the natural side of things, for sure, I'd be performing all the time. um,
gotcha.
but you gotta get that business going so that you can go perform. But and honestly too, like, you mentioned recording is so much fun, creating something from essentially nothing. um, but I don't read music, and my music theory is not so great, so I definitely rely on my producers to take care of that for me, in terms of like putting the band together for the studio and booking the studio and all that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
But the business side of things is for some reason, dude, I just kind of gravitate towards that.
Well, I mean, if you're able to handle it and you know what I mean, and feel comfortable there, it's got to be a leg up, honestly, because you know, many artists don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole just because, you know, they're not wired that way. You know, they're wired to, a lot of them are strictly wired to be creative or strictly wired to be a performer. You know, and we've had a few people that outside of music run their own small business as well. So they come from that world anyway.
Right.
So it's not as foreign to them.
Yeah. I think it's so important, man. I mean, especially if you're like a young artist, you know, just starting out, you really want to get like those foundational blocks built of a small business. Because if you don't, I mean, the reality is you're just not going to last that long. I mean, it is a business. I mean, your revenue has to be more than your expenses or else you're not going to survive. So, you know, it's just the reality. But sometimes I do wish I could, you know, shut that off a little bit or like, you know, pass that off to somebody else. And I'm getting better at that, but I have been so involved in my business that, you know, for a long period of time, it is a bit of a challenge, you know, for me to put that in someone else's hands simply because like, I know that I'm going to do
gotta
the
trust
best
them.
job. Like, you know, I live by this saying, nobody's going to work harder for you than you. And I've found that to be true in everything that I've done, not just music, but, you know, whatever my ventures are, it's always come down to me, you know?
Yeah, it makes, I mean, for better or worse. You know,
Right. Exactly.
mhm.
I mean, same thing
Um,
with your podcast too. I mean, if you weren't, you know, doing
yeah,
it
yeah, I would
all the
love to have
time,
a bunch of interns and, you know,
right.
to handle the posting and the this and the that and the other, but you know, then it has to be the right fit or the right person, or I mean,
Yeah.
uh, and and it strictly is a hobby. So
Yeah.
there's,
Right. Yeah.
well, you mentioned that you've been in this for a while, and I imagine I mean, you've had some songs pop off and do pretty well. So have you had? Are you now starting to see people come to you to ask you for questions and ask for advice, like younger artists?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I'm always happy to, you know, give advice and mentor. Um, you know, I don't necessarily like to go out and tell people how they should do their thing, but you know,
Right,
if
but
they
if
come
they
to me
come,
and
if
ask me,
exactly,
if they come to me and ask me a question about something or ask me for
especially
advice,
the business side.
100%, yeah, I'm always willing to share that. You know, and sometimes honestly, man, like it won't be the answer that they're looking for. I feel like
Hmm.
you might be wanting me to, you know, blow smoke or tell them, you know, it's all, you know, rainbows and butterflies, but it's just not that way. And so, you know, I give pretty honest advice if I'm asked for it.
No,
I don't want to go around, you know, telling people what I think they should do or,
I
you know,
understand, but you
have them.
know, you've probably dealt with the pros and cons and the mistakes and the you know the correct things and the wrong things of all of the business. So you know, I could see where you would get asked, you know, from time to time, and like you said, they probably don't want to hear. They want to hear the you know, the quick way, the easy way, and that's
Right.
not necessarily a lot of those.
Yeah, yeah, man. If you're on the easy train these days, uh, come pick me up because I'm ready to be I'm ready to join you.
Completely understand. I'm sure there's a lot. I'm sure that train would be crowded. Um, so I got to interview Wade Forrester this past weekend in person in Memphis, and something that he was talking about that I wouldn't. I'm a country guy. I live in the country, but I'm not a cowboy, right?
Sure.
Is the mindset of cowboying or rodeoing, how much that helps you in the music business, as far as he didn't say this, but this is kind of what I gathered, as far as if you're going into it the same with the same mindset, as far as how you handle yourself. I think it was pretty much what stood out to me. Are there any correlations for you between that world? Because I know I mean, you were really big into that world, and maybe still are in some way, shape, or form. Are there very many similarities for you?
There are, man. It's kind of wild how similar rodeoing and playing music, i.e., touring, um, how many similarities they have. Because just on the surface, you're driving hundreds of miles, if not
Hmm.
thousands of miles,
To do
spending
your
countless
thing.
hours to go do this thing that you've been preparing for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's like you're spending. It kind of goes back to that piece of the pie, right? It's like everybody sees 5% or 10%. Let's just call the show 10% of what we do. The rest, man, is shit, driving around and stopping at gas stations and eating crappy food, and making sure that you're not taking too long, getting from one place to the next, figuring out how expensive hotels are going to be that night. And there's a lot of similarities just on the surface, but whenever you kind of get down to, like you mentioned, that you're not a cowboy. Well, man, this, like, you don't have to be a cowboy to know what it's like to live a cowboy kind of lifestyle.
Got you.
It's all the things that are part of that. It's like personal responsibility, accountability, um, respectfulness, no matter where you come from. There's so many facets to the cowboy lifestyle, or the Western lifestyle, I'll call it.
Mm-hmm.
In which case it could translate to the country lifestyle. But as a rodeo athlete, I learned a lot about myself as a young man, because whenever I was in high school, I'm 16, 17, 18, and then whenever I'm in college, I'm starting to learn about myself in a more independent way, because I'm not living at home with my parents. So I'm out there on the
Mm-hmm.
road with other individuals, and we've got responsibilities and stuff. And then there's the sportsmanship aspect, where you're going to go out there and you're going to get your job done, but man, you may break the barrier, or you may miss your steer, or um, it just might all not come together like you had hoped it would. And boy, that is a fact of the music business almost 100% of the time. You may go out there and you may play a great show, but you're going to have some mistakes, and you're going to go, oh, well, I should improve on this. Or you're going to make a mistake about routing, going, golly, why did I decide I want to drive 7.5 hours to the show? I'm exhausted, you know? So you learn a lot about yourself. You don't always get your way. You don't always win. You're going to hear no a lot in the music business. And you kind of just keep your head down, and you just keep on trucking, man. And eventually, if you prepare for things, then the things that you prepared for are going to come to fruition. It's just a matter of really putting in the time and putting in the reps.
Which I'm sure is another one of the similarities, the time and the reps.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What I'm curious, as far as like a team wise, when you're doing the traveling rodeo thing, I mean it's probably pretty independent, right? I mean, I don't necessarily know, but but then when you do the music, especially if you have a band, you have to think about others as well.
Yeah, a lot of it. There are some people in rodeo that kind of are lone wolves. Um, but you will find too that like there's several people that will travel together and
I got you.
especially like maybe it's a
Cost.
team event, team roping, or on the steer wrestling side specifically, you've got a bulldogger and you've got a hazer, and the hazer's job is to keep the steer running straight so you can fall off the horse and get the steer down.
Right.
So you'll find like a lot of those guys run around together. You travel with your friends, essentially,
Mm-hmm.
is basically how it all comes together on the rodeo side. Um, and the great thing about rodeo too is like everybody, it's kind of like a small family. And I feel that way about music too. You
Mm-hmm.
mentioned kind of off air that like it's all kind of a family, we all get together and, exchange phone numbers and talk about what we have going on and share music and maybe write together and play shows together and all this kind of stuff. So, rodeo and music are very similar in that sense. As it relates to music specifically, you do have your band, you've got your crew, which is kind of you got to be really selective about who those people are. You
Right.
don't want to just have some random dude or some person off the street. I'm exaggerating here, but
Right.
hop in the van with you or come work in your business, because for one, you have to be with those people for the next however many hours you're together.
Right.
You only have an hour or an hour and a half show, but you got to go get in the van with those people right after that show and before that show. Um, so you want to make sure that there's really good chemistry there. You want to have people that you trust. Obviously, like as an artist, like my name's on the billboards, my name's on all the marketing material. So whatever they do is a reflection upon me. One of the things that I've been asked before is like, okay, how do you address, you know, how do you get your band members or your crew to um, behave? We'll just call it behave. You basically have to tell them. I mean, it should be
Right.
as a leader, as an artist, as a leader, you should exemplify how you want your people to act. But there are some places, like for instance in NFR in Vegas. If we go to Vegas and we are playing some shows, I'm like, okay, guys, you know,
Right.
you're here to have fun, but most importantly, you're here to work. And you're not so and so. You are Wynn Williams' guitar player, or you are Wynn Williams' drummer. Um, and that's kind of it's a little bit of a harsh way of saying it, but it's absolutely true. I mean, you don't see headlines of
Understand.
somebody else's name up on there. It's always the artist who gets the pushback and the blowback from, if something happens. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of that that you have to consider whenever you're picking your traveling buddies in the rodeo world, and also your band and crew on the music side.
There's that was one of the things that didn't, this is something that I didn't think about, is that the I'm pretty sure it was, I want to give credit. I'm pretty sure the person that told me that was Taylor Honeycutt. I think she said the hang is more important than the talent 90% of the time. And as I've talked to people and can tell, like, and see it firsthand, especially the road dogs that don't ever seem to be home,
Yeah.
I could completely see where we can work on the talent. I mean, we can work on the getting tight, but
Right.
the hang still has to be number one.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's that way just in the bar band world with me. I've gotten lucky to play music with Like if at the bar gig and I have, 2 beers in 4 hours, they make me look bad that I'm, I'm like, come on guys, like, but I've been very lucky just because I've been on the other side of, I've had a guitar player fall off stage on 4.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. When
Well,
I mean, when I first started playing music, now I still loved the guy. He was one of those guys that I wanted to strangle him, but couldn't help but love the guy. But man, that was just moments that I'm glad I don't have to deal with that stuff anymore.
right. Yeah, totally.
You know how it
Maybe
is
I
when you
should,
first start playing music. You put up with stuff just to play.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the pay always sucks I mean, hell, the pay sucks now in some cases. But you kind of, again, you just kind of put your head down and you keep on trucking and hopefully hopefully it all comes together
Right.
for you. And a lot of that too, man,
I
like,
understand.
we were having a conversation this past weekend. We were playing some shows up in Canada, and like you have to kind of define like what success means to you. If you want to if you want to make it, then you have to define what making it means.
Right.
And so, if that's a lot of money or like a big house and a bunch of vehicles and stuff, well, that's, one form of success. I may see it that way and you may not. I mean, my viewpoint of success is setting a goal and achieving that goal. And of course, you have short-term things, you have long-term things, you have, things that you want to achieve 10 years down the road. But it's like, you just have to define what that is to you and just work towards that. Because if you're not, then you're kind of just like flying by the seat of your pants, and some of that, dude, sometimes that works for people.
Yeah.
But if you're a guy like me who's super analytical and you're like business minded all the time, then you have to kind of set those things up. And then it really like helps that helps you, in my opinion, that helps you so much, because then you can go out and you can find those like-minded individuals that you want to have out on the road that are working towards the common goals that you have for yourself. And, you got some buy-in from everybody. So, it's so important to have a lot of that kind of framework in your mindset. And that's where the rodeo aspect comes in too, because it's so important. You got to be so focused and work hard all the time.
Given the fact that you're talking about, being focused and working all the time, and you have these business minded goals, but does it allow you to kind of have moments where you like, I get to play music for a living?
Yeah, man, I have those moments all the time. Especially now, because it feels like the momentum is like starting to pick back up. It's been a long time since I've felt that way, especially after COVID, because like we were rocking and rolling, and then all of a sudden everything stops, and it was really challenging for artists like myself. And I could probably name you another 20 artists at least down here in Texas. Or it was the same thing. It was like you release a record and then all of a sudden you can't play shows, and like there's nothing to do, and you're making no money, and you're not inspired to do anything
Right.
creative because it's not paying the bills and all this kind of stuff. But
And you're not out and about doing your normal
exactly.
seeing
So
life, living life to write songs.
it can be like that was pretty discouraging, but as I've kind of overcome that hump, it feels like things are starting to really come together in the way that they're supposed to, or like the way that I imagined that they should.
Mm-hmm.
I've always thought to myself, okay, if I want to make it in this business, I need to put in 10 years. And so like now, year 9, I'm starting to like see the fruits of my labor come together, and we're starting to get some offers from some places that Otherwise, we wouldn't be playing. We're starting to get some recognition on, I mean, look at here, this is a huge podcast opportunity. And I got to meet Steve, and he was like, hey man, you got some good stuff going on. Let's get you on the podcast. So, you start to have some of these things that are happening, and you're going, man, you just have to stop and kind of take a look over your shoulder and go, I wasn't ready for that 2 years ago or 3 years ago or 9 years ago. I wasn't ready for that. I may have felt like I was ready for that. But the reality is, like, you kind of have to grow into these things. And man, look, it happens faster for some people. And that's great. If I sat here and said I'm not jealous of those people that it's happened for a little bit faster,
that's natural, right?
Dude, I would be lying. That's just part of the human experience, man. We all are jealous of the next guy that has something going on bigger and better and faster.
Even in rodeoing, right?
Dude, in everything.
Right.
But I will say, like, because I've had to work so hard for it, and because I've spent so much time doing it on my own, there's nobody that can take that away from me. And so I can be incredibly proud of the progress that I've made professionally and personally. And I can go stand on that stage with conviction every night and go, I deserve to be here because I worked my ass off for it.
And yeah, that's something you can hang your hat on even more, just because nothing was given.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%.
Well, we're gonna go a little bit longer than halftime before we get to your song, because I feel like I'll be backtracking if I do that. You mentioned COVID and 2020 and everything, but I did see that Tornado, your song Tornado, was kind of popped off and took off a little bit in 2020. Did I read that right?
Yeah, man. We put
was
out.
Was that during the downtime?
I think it kind of was, because we put out Tornado. Well, we put out my first full-length record in January of 2020.
Okay.
And yeah, so it must have been like right about that time things were really kind of coming around. I mean, 2019, we were like touring heavily. We were, playing a lot of shows. We were opening up for a lot of people. And then 2020 rolls around. My first record comes out. Tornado's on there. It's kind of a big hit immediately.
Okay. That's what I couldn't tell if that was before or after.
And then in March of 2020 is whenever everything shut down. So, 2 months after putting out my first full-length record, and all of a sudden I don't have any like, I don't have anything to do to promote that record, except for make videos and do Facebook Lives and TikToks and stuff. And at that time, man, like, TikTok was brand spanking new. Nobody knew what TikTok was, and very few people were doing it. And actually, I do remember, this was in 2021. I got married January 2nd of 2021, but I was on my honeymoon, and Tornado like had a little bit of a moment on TikTok.
Okay.
But I didn't have a TikTok. So like, I like didn't even promote the song as well as I could have, because I wasn't even on that platform. I was on my honeymoon, to be fair, but it just felt like it had an opportunity, and then it kind of passed a little bit. But no, that song certainly has been my most successful release to this date, and I owe a lot of my career to that song specifically.
Did the streaming wise, I know you couldn't do anything else, but during the lockdown and everything, did that again, I know streaming doesn't necessarily correlate to financial gains, but did that help? I mean, how did your album do during those times? Like we've talked to different people where, you know, their music kind of took off, you know, as far as streaming wise during that time period because people didn't have anything else to do, you know.
Yeah.
Or was
I
it pretty much the same for you?
um I actually don't really remember
I got
specifically.
you.
Um Back then I wasn't necessarily like paying attention to the numbers as
I
much. And
got you.
like now I have a team, like we have a weekly call where we talk about numbers and we say, okay, you need to be more engaging on these things and you need to point more to these things, which is part of the growth aspect of being an artist. But I think it was pretty hot, and then it kind of leveled off a little bit. But I think, man, that kind of just comes as like, I don't know. It's hard to say
No, I understand.
because like people, I mean, you know how it is. People will listen to a song and then the next day it's on to the next song. So the attention
Yeah,
span in
we're
general is
all
short.
guilty.
Um, so I don't know, but I will say like that particular song and that album, led to um, more opportunities to continue to create music. And
I
it's
got
not
you.
necessarily like, dude, I mean, I haven't made hardly any money off of streaming. I don't know how much I've made in total, but I can tell you right now, for the amount of money that I spent making those records, I am most definitely in the red on all of those things. And who knows if I'll ever recoup the investment into those just on streaming alone.
No,
Hopefully,
yeah.
hopefully I get to millions and millions of streams, and you know, have a bunch of royalties coming in after that. But who knows, man? Like that's not why we do what we do. Again, that's
No.
why it's so important to define success, because if you're
Hmm.
chasing find a different line of work, man, because this business freaking you're gonna you're gonna spend a lot
Well,
more money.
just for people that don't know you, Tornado has almost, at least on Spotify right now, it has almost 4.5 million streams. All right, so and I'm sure combined it's probably closer to 10, and when you add all the services up. Um, and I guess that's why I was asking, as far as just context for anyone else that jumping into that in mid sentence or mid conversation, with just explaining the way that was going during when COVID hit. But I do like the fact what you said. That song probably did set you up for things after the fact, and the next album and the next chapter probably got a good leg up, headed into that because of riding the wave from that one, right?
Absolutely, man. I mean, you always want you always want to continue working towards the next thing. Um, and it's hard to do, but
Does that open doors for you? I mean, I know they're all relative, but does it, when you added that song, take off like that, you might not. I mean, I think you're kind of downplaying it a little bit, but that's a lot of streams, and you said you're almost at 10 years in, and 4 year in. Wynn would have loved to have that song with 4.5 million streams on Spotify. So,
right.
mm,
Yeah, man, it's certainly not something I take for granted by any means. Um, but you're absolutely right. It, like, you see these things happen and then you're like, oh, well, that worked. So let me go try and do that again. Um, I think one of the biggest things, like some artists, this happened with the Eagles, in my opinion. Like they always wanted to make their next record a better record and a better record and a better record.
understand.
And like, of course you want to get better, and like you want to create a better product. And I think that I've been able to achieve that just like on the production side alone. Like the music sounds better in the speakers, it sounds better in the headphones. Musically, it's a little bit more. I don't know. I don't even know if I want to finish that sentence because I don't want to like put myself in like a box or whatever. But
Right.
you know, I think that you just have to like write and record things that speak to you and mean something to you as an artist. And like that's the most fulfilling part because you're not like chasing anything else except for like what makes you as an artist be fulfilled. And then like you just go out and you just be yourself and you just be like a normal person.
And then when
and
people connect to it,
and
it
people
means even
connect to it.
more.
Yeah, exactly. And so like so many people, there's some artists right now like on TikTok trying to you know create beef with other people. It's like, dude, you don't have to do that. There's an abundance of opportunity really for everybody. It's not so much a competition anymore like with someone else. It's just a competition with yourself, man, because if you can keep your head up and like out of the dumps from just like having to be on TikTok all the time or like just like daily life in general with social media the way it is, man, you're winning like 3/4 of the battle right there. Just keeping your head up and like continuing to do what you're doing. Um,
I
so
thought you were going to say there's plenty of opportunities to have beef. You don't have to look
I mean,
for
look,
it.
that's true too. But
No.
there's just like there's so much opportunity out there for artists these days. Everything is so accessible. You've got social media, which is a double-edged sword to some degree.
Right.
But anybody can make it. It's just a matter of
How much work?
playing things, singing things that are authentic to you and that you believe in, and then the listener will make up their mind about whether they believe you or not.
Be yourself, be authentic, and put in the work, and let it lay where it does.
That's right.
And I would hope the guys trying to have all the beef would notice that how quickly those beefs fade away. I mean, we went from, you know, Charlie
Yeah.
Crockett to Zach in what, a couple days. so so
Yeah.
yeah, we don't you don't have to do all that. People forget and move on so fast that it's better just to, why can't we be friends, But anyway, there is no beef on with about the new record. So we need to make sure we play a song from that one. We're gonna do "She Ain't You." You want to kind of give us a little rundown on that one?
Yeah, man. This is a song that actually I did not write. As I mentioned, I've been really, really busy on the road and at home. So we really like leaned into the Nashville publishing side of things, which again, I've been going up there for years, recording, writing, all that stuff. So we went around to some publishers and looked for some great songs. And fortunately, we found some. One of them being this song, "She Ain't You." It's kind of an introspective song of sorts. Whenever I heard it the first time, I was like, man, that is me. And so if you have a song that somebody else wrote and you connect to it as an artist, then there's a good chance that other people out there are going to relate to it too. So I felt like I needed to record it. And fortunately, I got to. And I love how it turned out. So here is "She Ain't You."
All right, if you would hit that microphone button so we can mute it. And all right, here we go.
You don't mind the same old pair of
dusty boots you always wear. You don't see nothing wrong with same old same. You get by with a fold-out chair, a TV tray, no, you don't care about the colors of the curtains or where the pictures hang. You don't need no reason, roses, or love you know left on the nightstand. You're a simple man, but she ain't you. She don't think the way if you really wanna love her from her point of view, 'cause she ain't you. You might not love them downtown lights, and no, you ain't the dancing kind, but if it makes her smile, then what you waiting for? You might not see the reason why, but you brushed off, she held on tight. Every record's got two sides and hers ain't yours, 'cause she ain't you. She don't think the way you do. If you really wanna love her from her point of view. Her heart's a maze. She wants you to find the way. You might not understand her. What matters is that you're trying to, 'cause she ain't you. She's everything you're not. Your better half ain't got. That she ain't you. She don't think the way you do. If you really wanna love her from her point of view. Her heart's a maze. She wants you to find the way. You might not understand her. What matters is that you're trying to, 'cause she ain't you. She ain't you.
All right, I'm late getting the clip up. There it goes. Yeah, my Spotify really misled me on that one. I was kind of thinking like it says there's 2 minutes left still on the song, right?
That's an outro. Yeah.
Okay. I thought my
This
my
was the
iPad was
single-headed
glitching.
version here on
I got you.
Tennessee
Uh,
podcast.
So one thing that when I listened to that, I guess a couple days ago, that it, I don't know, it just stood out to me how it's got the kick on the verse and then stops for the chorus. Like I'm expecting it to take off at the chorus, not
Yeah.
not to come back down. I like that, especially the first time I heard it. That you know the surprise. So
Yeah. Well, the song title itself, it's a little bit of a surprise anyway, because you
right.
generally wouldn't hear the artist talk about themselves that way. So I don't know. Whenever I heard it the first time, I was like, man, this is a really, really cool song. So
How was that more nerve-wracking for you to open up and kind of go down that avenue as far as picking songs from other people? I mean, they had to be kind of different for you.
it was a little different, man, but to be honest, I was just like, I was so excited to listen to some of these songs, because the way, at least in my experience, like whenever I write, I'll go sit down in a room for maybe it takes 2 hours, maybe it takes 4 hours, who knows how long. But dude, sometimes you can sit there for hours on end, and you don't even get a chorus, or like you don't even get a verse.
Right.
So, you know, songwriting is not an easy thing to do. You know, you got to write a ton of songs before you even maybe get one that's even worth recording. And so, you know, we went around to these publishers and we told them exactly what we're looking for. And some of them, you know, came through, and some of them, you know, missed the mark a little bit. But, you know, we probably listened to somewhere between 40 and 60 songs. You know, and we picked 12 of the best. 2 of those I wrote. So we had a lot of songs that, you know, are outside songs that I didn't even have like a stake in terms of the writing situation. But that's totally cool with me, because if you think back to the 90s and the early 2000s, right, dude, think about how much amazing music we got out of that era. It's all writers.
And that was from what I've gathered. That's your wheelhouse, right? As far as your music.
Exactly. So, very, very few artists. I mean, George Strait, dude, he's got like 61, 62 number one songs, maybe more, maybe a couple more than that. He didn't write like.
Right. I heard somebody say that not long ago. I don't remember what number they used, but something like what you just said, that George Strait had 60 number one hits, and 63 of them were Dean Dillon's.
Yeah,
something, whatever number they used was, you know,
right.
back. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's all the writer, man. I mean, without the songwriters, man, like there is no music business. And so that's like as a songwriter myself, it's really special to get to take some of these songs that have never seen the light of day, you know, and give them an opportunity to shine. And you know, maybe they're not huge hit songs because I'm not a huge hit artist to this point. Hopefully, maybe tomorrow I will be. Who knows?
Right.
But you know, if I can take a song from sitting on a shelf for, you know, a few years to finally getting to be released, it's just exciting for me, because I know that these writers spend so much time
exactly
putting these songs together, man.
I wouldn't have thought about it from that point of view.
Yeah There's a lot that goes, so it's, you know, I've whenever on release day, I like reached out to some of the writers on Instagram. You know, not all of them responded, but some of them did. Some of my buddies that I've met in the past and written with in the past, like, hey, you know, your song came out today on my record, and, you know, thank you so much for letting me record it, you know, all that kind of stuff. So it's just exciting, you know.
Well, I know there's always like a stigma, or a Texas versus Nashville thing. How did that come about for you, or the opportunity, or how did that situation happen for you, as far as when you started coming, you know, to Tennessee to write, or to network, or whatever that was that you know got you? Because it's not, we all know the fluff that's on country radio, and that's what most everybody thinks of when they think Nashville. But there's a whole, I would guess that's a really small percentage of the pie in Nashville. Like the rest, there's probably a lot of substance there.
Yeah, you know, you don't see it as much anymore, I don't think, but it used to be like really kind of one of these deals. But I think that's kind of like, I don't think that's as prevalent anymore. But like my very first experience with songwriting was even like before I was really even like writing that much. There was a guy, like I decided I wanted to kind of like play music a little bit. I wanted to record songs. I wanted to, you know, pursue this a little bit. And it would have been like 2014. I was transferring to Texas A&M, and I reached out to a guy via email. I got on his website and I reached out to him via email. His name was Steve Bogard.
via MySpace.
Yeah. Right. Um, and Steve Bogart is a Hall of Fame songwriter. He wrote "Carrying Your Love with Me," "Carried Away." Those are just a few right off the top of my head. But I sent him an email and I'm like, "Hey man, I'm this kid from Texas. I want to play music. Do you have any songs that I could listen to?" And he sent me a few songs. One of them was a song called "Words Fly," and that was the title track to my very first EP. So that was like my very first, like, I would just call it like a toe in the water, into, like, the Nashville thing. And then whenever I was in college, I would go to these writers retreats with my buddy Drew Fish, and that's where I met a bunch of Nashville guys that have been songwriters for many, many years. Roger Brown, Tommy Connors, and then I got connected with Byron Hill and Jeff Silby, just to name a few. I mean, Don Rollins, who we lost a little bit earlier this year, man. Some really, really great mentors that kind of changed the course of like my career, even before it was a career. And so I started to go to Nashville a lot more and write with this circle of guys who had been doing it for so long. And I kind of developed a little bit of my craft there. And I think I wrote and co-wrote, I think there's 14 songs on my self-titled record. And I think 13 of those I wrote or co-wrote, which is ironic because like the next couple projects, like I start getting more into the outside song stuff. But that's just a time situation. But like, that was my first really like, that was like my path into Nashville. And then Roger Brown came to me. I used to stay at his house whenever I was going up there and writing a lot. Cause you know, we were talking about putting together a new record, and he came to me and he was like, "Hey man, I really want to produce your record." So I was going up there a lot, and we were writing so much, man. And that was a lot of fun. We would write like, I don't know. It just felt like we were on fire. We were just writing so much, and like we were having some success. And not every song we wrote was great, but we were just like exercising that muscle, right, all the time. And you know, there were some days we would write two or three songs. You know, those were pretty rare, but I kind of got my chops up there, and then you know, started playing around a lot. And then my first full-length record came out, which is the one that Roger produced. And then played around, started to get pretty busy, and then continued to write a little bit, but then like explored a little bit of more of the writer community. And so like I got a couple songs from here and there. And then kind of blossomed and like started working with some other people and like finding out who I am as an artist, like how I want to sound and like what I want to say. And now I feel like I have a really solid team around me. Brandon Hood is producing the records, which in my opinion, they sound amazing. They sound exactly like the way that I want my records
what
to
you
sound.
wanted it, yeah.
You know, a lot of times like you hear stuff in your head and you're like, okay, how is this going to translate? But I can sincerely say that Brandon, and this is an important part of the puzzle too, like as a producer, I think it's so important that your producer like listens to what you have to say and actually takes that into the studio with them instead of just like, okay, I'm just going to make what I want, what I feel like I want it to sound like, and this kid's going to have to play it for the rest of his life, you know?
Just live with it.
It's like a great partnership between Brandon and I, because I feel like I can be really honest with him and, you know, just have really substantial conversations with him so that he can kind of take that into the studio and make it what I want it to be as an artist. Because at the end of the day, I'm the one that has to stand on the stage and sing it every night. So I want it to, you know, translate to how I would want it to sound every single night on stage.
Yeah, that's. I'm sure that is time and getting the team around you that well, you have to find yourself first, and then then the rest of the puzzle has to come together. Usually, we joke, but it's not necessarily. It's actually true that Adam Hood comes up on the podcast every episode, and the chat mentioned that it was a half of a hood this time. Not full Adam Hood this time, just a hood. But we made it an hour in. So, but I want to be respectful of your time and get you out of here. Let's hit a couple real quick rapid fires, and then we'll end this thing. What's one of your songs that you would say is that you're pretty proud of, but is a little bit underloved?
Do I have to be a writer on it?
Yeah, whatever you want. Just a song you would like to, just shine some light on that might not get enough.
It's off of the new record, so naturally probably that many people have not heard it yet.
Gotcha.
But this is a song, I didn't write it, but it was pitched to me. It's called Put the Shovel Down, and
Okay.
it is country music to a T. And it's supposed to be rapid fire, so I'll just
That's all right. I mean,
But go listen to Put the Shovel Down, and you will understand exactly what I'm talking about.
all right. First concert you ever went to in general, and then first concert that you paid to go to.
Oh wow. First concert was probably it was at the Flying J Ranch in New Mexico. I was like a little bitty kid. We went up there, and it was like a Western swing, like chuck wagon type, like dinner and show.
Right.
So it was like very Western themed. So that was probably like my first concert that I can at least remember.
Right.
The one that I probably paid for would have been, at least the first one that I can remember, would be Josh Abbott at Billy Bob's Texas.
Okay.
That was probably like my junior year of high school, maybe, or like my senior year of high school. I was just starting to get into going out and getting the girls dancing.
That's right. And that's when I knew I wanted to be a singer. All right. I just thought of this one. You during with the rodeo stuff that you did. I'm sure a lot of people that aren't cowboys think what you're playing in your headphones before the ride or whatever would be something like, would be Chris Ledoux every time, right? But what is something, what's some stuff that would have actually been in the headphones that's not in that vein of music?
Oh man, it probably would have been like some Kenny Chesney or some Tim McGraw.
Oh, it still would have been country?
It probably would still be country. I
Okay.
really like to start getting into like the rock stuff, which I really love classic rock now. Until like probably my senior year of college. I watched the Eagles documentary on HBO, and just like I was like, whoa, what is this? And just like went down a rabbit hole of classic rock stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just, I picture, that the reality of would be, and especially like a young person, what's in their headphones compared to what the traditional country guy thinks should be in the headphones is probably completely different. Probably,
Right.
Pantera or something in their headphones, and they're supposed to be, cowboy stuff. So,
Yeah.
all
If
right.
I'm getting psyched up to go jump off of a horse, probably something like that nowadays. But no, honestly, dude, like I do not mind a little bit of silence either, because there's so much stuff going on in my head all the time. Sometimes no sound at all is the perfect sound.
I noticed that from my gig this past weekend. I played on a Friday night, and then I got it was almost a 30-minute drive, and I was about to pull on my road, and I realized I didn't even turn the radio on, which I worked that day and then played that night too. So,
Yeah.
all right, bucket list venue. Give me a Texas bucket list venue.
Billy Bob's, Texas.
Gotcha. All right. All right. So make sure y'all go follow Wynn on all of your socials. They'll be in the description of when this thing is posted. Um, we know that artists don't love doing social media, so when you see their videos, actually interact and let them know that you did see it, because you know, swiping on by, nobody ever knows that you saw it. So like it, comment, interact with the artist, because that way it's not near as aggravating to them. To actually get some reaction back is probably the goal, right? So all right, this is the most important question. It started on episode 1, and now it is a requirement that we ask. So what is your favorite Little Debbie snack? That's tough, hard-hitting questions is what we do here.
Dude, I cannot even tell you the last time I even had a Little Debbie. Shoot, are ding dongs Little Debbie's? I mean,
No, those are hostesses.
all right.
It's all right.
Little Debbie probably has like some, little donuts or something, right?
Yeah, I'm sure. All right, yeah, that's fine. We were just trying to think, or I was trying to think of the most like Dollar General trailer park question that I could ask, and that's what I come up with
that's
two years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago. So all right, Wynn, I appreciate the time, man. If like I said, y'all go give them a follow, interact with all the stuff they do. Follow wherever you listen to your music. Don't just listen to artists, especially the independent guys. It's all about the sales pitch. The numbers, unfortunately, mean a ton. So go help the guys when you can, and go to a show.
That's right. Yeah, come on.
Buy some merch and get a picture and an autograph.
That's right.
All right,
Man, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, and thanks to Steve, who's not here tonight, but a good man.
Oh shit! The podcast was going great until.